Hey guys, welcome to the Lean to the Left podcast and our special monthly feature, the Dixie Dems. With me are Arthur Hill, Vice Chair of the Brunswick County, North Carolina Democratic Party, and Robert Thompson, an outspoken political podcaster from Georgia. I'm a Marylander transplanted into South Carolina, and besides hosting this podcast, I'm the founder of the leantotheleft.net blog site. I've also published an updated version of Hijack Nation, a book about the Trump presidency with my co-author C.J. Waldron, and it's now for sale online at Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So it'd be really nice if you guys picked it up. I would appreciate it. Anyway, today though, we're going to focus on Donald Trump's early actions as president and their possible implications. And my God, do we have a lot to talk about. Before we get started, though, I want to let you guys know that beginning next month, our Dixie Dems episodes will include special guests whenever possible. Our first will be Michael Moore, a Democratic businessman who challenged MAGA Rep Nancy Mace of South Carolina in last November's election. So, Arthur and Robert, let's get started, my friends. There is a lot to unpack today, as Trump's early actions indicate that he's deadly serious about establishing himself as dictator president. He's already issued executive orders pulling out of the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Accord. He's pardoned the January 6th insurrectionists. He's declared a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexican border, stopped wind energy projects, suspended the TikTok ban, and imposed federal workforce changes, including firing staffers working on DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion. Arthur, what are your thoughts about all of this, my friend?
Wow. Well, there's a lot to think about. As far as the DEI business is concerned, it wasn't any secret that he had planned to do something like this. It's not unexpected. And in fact, it's not even the first of many similar moves he's made in other areas. For example, he's dismissed all the senior officers of the Department of Justice who had anything to do with immigration. They're all gone. The lady who ran the immigration courts is out. And when we say out, of course, they're civil servants, so it's difficult to dismiss them altogether, to kick them out of government. So what they do is they just move them into lesser offices and give them other duties and get them out of those responsibilities so they can insert their own people to get the job done as they see fit. So there's going to be a lot of that going on. There's no question about it. And the issue is going to be how far can he go without some judge somewhere stopping him from doing it? And of course, that just happened with a federal judge who had to make a decision about 4 states that filed a petition to prevent the so-called birthright ban from going into effect. That was another one of the executive orders that Trump signed on Inauguration Day. And of course, it's a temporary restraining order, which means it's not a permanent ban. But the judge in the decision made it pretty clear that this is going to be a permanent ban and that it was unconstitutional and it was a direct violation of the Constitution. So there's going to be a lot of court cases. There's going to be a lot of action. There's probably going to be some consternation from at least the Democratic side in the House and the Senate. And it'll be interesting to follow if we can keep up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keeping up, that's a big deal. Robert, what are your thoughts initially about all this?
Well, to explain, secretly, I think Dark Brandon is back at work here. So he actually tweeted or, shared a picture of himself and Dr. Jill Biden leaving the White House. And one more picture for the road, I think he said. And I knew this t-shirt I'm wearing, it would have a use. And the very cold temperatures in the South, which have not been seen in what, close to 100 years, and so forth. I mean, I think even my dog, if you can hear him, is maybe agreeing here too. But to think about this World Health Organization, here in Georgia, poultry, chickens are one of our huge, commodities here. And, there is now a second flock that we're seeing that has this bird flu outbreak. I don't know if you guys are reading this story.
Yeah.
And you know what happens when they find this bird flu? Lots and hundreds, thousands of chickens get murdered. And how do you think that's going to affect the price of chicken and eggs?
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, so if he's going to pull out of the World Health Organization, and okay, we're going this alone now, and we saw how that worked out for COVID and the deaths and where the prices went. So we're keeping track, we're keeping score. I actually tagged you, Bob. I know it's been a busy week, but I've started tagging you in a couple of things
I
because
saw
I
that.
wanted to
Yeah,
keep score on these
yeah,
prices.
yeah.
And, we're going to get to Mr. Barry Loudermilk a little bit later because he's been busy doing some other stuff. But, calling out and calling the staffers and like, okay, you're in office. Why haven't prices dropped yet? This was a campaign promise. And there's sudden amnesia now that, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, huh? You've got Netflix, they got a price hike this week. All of a sudden now, Medicare, that they cannot negotiate drug prices. Yeah, you know what? My mom in North Georgia, she is on Medicare. She is a retired, 60-something-year-old woman. I have to run her payday loan service for her because she cannot afford her drugs. How is this fixing anything?
Yeah.
You're not fixing, you're not delivering on your promises.
Well, that's for sure. And it's only going to get worse because we got these tariffs coming up too that
Yeah,
he's talking about. And he's deadly serious about it. I mean, I've been talking to a bunch of people about all of this, and it looks to be like he's going to impose these tariffs. They may not be as heavy-handed as some have expected, but they will increase the cost of goods from Mexico, from Canada, from China, at least, and who knows where else. And what's that going to do to this promise of bringing down the price of eggs and bringing down the cost of fuel and so on?
Well,
yeah. I'm
if we,
I'm still waiting on dollar a gallon gasoline. It ain't here yet.
yeah.
Yeah, well, he's going drill, baby, drill, and he's taken action to stop wind energy development and offshore wind energy development and so on, and determined to support fossil fuels. And is that really going to work to bring down the price of gasoline?
Not a damn thing. Not a damn thing. We are already the biggest producer of oil in the world.
I
Yeah,
It's
know
not
exactly.
going
it
to do a
makes no
damn
sense.
thing.
Uh,
Yeah.
All it is just political campaign rhetoric bullshit from Trump. That's all it is, and it's going to
Well,
continue.
and the thing about the tariffs is he he can go ahead with the tariffs. That's going to cause prices to go up and inflation to go up. But then the thing is that even if the tariffs are listed, let's say the tariffs are lifted 2 years from now for whatever political reason Trump deems is valid. You think that the people who are running businesses who have increased their prices over the last 2 years are now going to magically lower them? I don't think so. So we're going to be stuck with increased pricing of goods and services across the country, forever. And this is the guy who said he was going to stop inflation and restore the economy. If the signals are in future months when the economic reporting comes out that the job openings continue to increase, that inflation also continues to increase. We're headed for bad economic times. 2 years down the road, we could be looking at a completely different political picture than we are now.
Yeah, you know what? I did an interview yesterday with a guy named Jason Palmer, who was a Democratic candidate against Biden in the primary, and eventually pulled out after winning American Samoa. That was the only thing he won in the primary. But Jason was very, very pointed in his comments about all of this and how inflation is going to just worsen as a result of Trump's tariff activities and his efforts to deport all these people, all these immigrants, people who are working in the fields and working in the factories and so on and so forth.
You want
Uh,
to talk about amnesia? My field is in IT, but I spent, time in banking and mortgages. There was another headline today. He's going to demand that interest rates go down. Guess what that's going to do? Fuel inflation.
how is he going to demand that interest? So what that he demands interest rates go down?
Okay, you get your way, interest rates go down. But again, that's going to fuel inflation.
Mhm.
Hello?
Mhm.
That's how it works.
Mhm. The only thing he can really do to directly control it is to make sure that the guys that he wants get put on the Fed. But that's a pretty long-term proposition.
Yeah.
Get the
And you did
Fed.
touch, I wanted to be curious. And as we're looking over here, you've got Trump saluting and doing what the hell he's doing over here on Fox News. But isn't it very interesting that you've got footage of ICE agents in Boston arresting alleged illegal people, but they're blurring their faces out? Why does Fox News feel that they need to blur the faces of ICE agents out on TV? Hmm.
What that's about.
So
Are these ICE agents not happy they're having to do these jobs? Hmm.
could be.
Are they doing that to protect their identity from retaliation in some way or another?
Hmm. Isn't that interesting?
So this is the first one that they started in Boston.
So I don't have the audio on because I was curious because that's really the first footage I had seen. But that's the first thing that really popped in my mind. Why you guys had to blur your faces? I thought you were proud to be doing your job as a federal worker.
Hmm.
All right, let's talk a little bit about his pardoning of the insurrectionists. What are the implications of all of that, do you think?
I don't know what's legal and illegal anymore. I spent some time, we got tax time coming up and I was, going through spreadsheets and pulling out stuff. I was like, why am I even doing this? Why does it matter anymore?
Well, it seems to me that that is just going to get worse. Now, the what worries me is that there are two things. One is the folks that he pardoned. The what 50, how many? 1,500 were there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
1,500 that
Yeah.
he
It
pardoned.
was not just the non-violent folks.
Oh
It
no,
was
no, it
everyone.
was the violent. It was the ones that ended up physically attacking the Capitol Police that were there trying to defend the Capitol.
Yep.
And incredible. But those people could form the heart of a group of what people who could end up being involved in
A militia,
a militia. That's the word I was trying to find.
which has a word in the Constitution still, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, his own militia. I mean, we're going to talk about the effect of MAGA on the military, and I'm sure that there's plenty of people who are sympathetic to the Proud Boys and all that sort of thing in the military. But these guys have got every reason in the world to be loyal to Trump and only Trump. And they were already at his beck and command on January 6th.
Yeah.
Going to continue to be, and they're going to continue to be, and they're going to be more dangerous because it's going to be impossible to stop them short of a shootout.
Yep. You know, Bob, I almost recommend, and this is sad that I'm saying this, but I'm a gun owner. I have guns in the house, but I almost recommend that you have someone on one of your episodes, and I'll be glad to sit in on it to talk about, gun safety and responsible gun ownership. It's so unfortunate that I have to say that, but this is clearly what his intention is.
Mhm.
That, and he wishes, obviously in all of his actions that led back to January 6th, what, 4 or 5 years ago. Obviously, this is, he wants all these people behind him. He wants to be dear leader of North Korea, etc.
I think there's still a chance that the blue states or whatever you want to call them will be an important factor in the loyal opposition to Trump and what he's trying to do. If, for example, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard decides that they want to try to do something to pursue Trump's goals in California or even North Carolina, that the governors there have the capacity and the law enforcement arms there have the capacity to step in and prevent it from happening and even prosecute these guys, which of course would be beyond whatever the federal government could do, because I'm sure the U.S. attorneys aren't going to step into any of this. So there is a chance that the state, this is one example of how the states could rally against actions like this and rally against reactionary forces like the Proud Boys and folks who are going to make up this militia that we're talking about.
And to go deeper into that, I'm not sure if it's in, later in the discussion here, but folks are saying this whole BS, they keep going back and forth that we're going to stop funding to California for the wildfires. I'm sorry, that's just ridiculous. But okay, California, don't send another dime to the federal government.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I mean, the fact is that he said that he said the other day in an interview with Sean Hannity that the federal government shouldn't give California a dime until the water starts to flow again. And I'm not quite sure what that meant, but it indicates that he feels that the government should not help California that is undergoing this the horrible consequences of these fires and holding them hostage for political reasons. Now that is just absolutely freaking disgusting.
Yeah. But this is their playbook. And I think we've talked about it before. When they go low, we go. The gloves are off, folks. If you want to sit around and just say, sorry, you can't say that, then you're going to continue to lose elections. These
Mhm.
folks don't play like this. You're going
Yeah,
to have to get dirty and throw mud. Otherwise, you're going to continue to lose elections. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, it's absolutely clear to me that the Democrats have to sharpen their messaging dramatically. I mean, they lost this election, in my view. One reason why that they lost this election was because they didn't effectively talk about the improvements in the economy, for example, under Biden, and they let the Republicans define that issue and take and control that issue. And the Democrats did a horrible job, in my opinion, of taking credit for the good things that have happened under Joe Biden
Well,
and
and
Harris.
we have a congressman here in our district. His name is Rouser. You can look him up, David Rouser, and he's a Republican in the Jesse Helms uh, of the Jesse Helms types. As a matter of fact, he worked for Jesse Helms. He was on his staff, and he voted against the infrastructure bill. He voted against IRA. He voted against all these bills that are sending money to the states and which really help the economy. He voted against the CHIPS bill, and yet whenever a grant comes down to this part of the country that's related to those laws, he takes credit for it.
Yeah.
So they're doing more than simply just voting against it. They're actually taking credit for it and redefining the whole message. And Bob, you're absolutely right. The Democrats did not do an effective job of marketing and heralding what Biden did during his time. And the tragedy of it is it's all going to become apparent over the next couple of years. And I guarantee you, what's going to happen is when new interstates are built and new bridges are built and new chip factories come into being, Trump's going to take credit for it.
Sure he is.
And we're gonna come to an election and he's going to be looking pretty because they're going to think the economy is swimming along beautifully because of him.
So I have to quote Fox News Live right now. Trump, we're witnessing the revolution of common sense, which may lead into the efficiency department with Mr. Musk.
Yeah, well, there we go. The
I'm going to make a
Department of
prediction.
Government Efficiency.
I'm going to make a prediction. The next episode of Dixie Dems, we're going to be talking about Musk getting kicked out of the White House.
The thing, though, is that Bannon was trying to beat around the bush around that, but Bannon has no money, as far as I know.
Right, right.
So Musk has got a lot of money. So we'll see. I don't.
Well, but if Musk keeps putting stuff on X that says the $500 billion AI investment that Trump wants to make, big tech doesn't have the money to do it. He keeps on confronting Trump like that. He's not going to last. He's not going to last 10 minutes.
No, you're right there.
Also,
Trump,
Musk is not American either. So just putting that out there.
right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And what about that? I mean, Trump is all about, putting America first, and now he's got some guy from he's from South Africa
Yeah.
Well, is he really? Because he's a Bond villain, and who the hell
Hell, I don't
knows,
know where he's from, nor do I give a crap.
right?
But he's one dangerous dude in my opinion with all this money he's throwing around. And he's sucked up to Trump and Trump's loving it. So we'll see what happens with that though. I think you got a good point. Yeah, we'll see. Hey guys, I'm Bob Gaddy, founder and host of Lean to the Left. I'm excited to share our new book, Hijack Nation, Donald Trump's Attack on America's Greatness, co-authored with political analyst and professor C.J. Waldron. In Hijack Nation, we delve into the unfolding story of America's political landscape through a series of essays from leantotheleft.net. We explore how Donald Trump's presidency has transformed American politics, challenging our values and institutions. Hijack Nation isn't just a book, it's a call to action. It invites you to reflect on what it means to be American in a divided political landscape. Together we can reclaim our nation's greatness. So get your copy of Hijack Nation today. Visit leantotheleft.net and click on the Books tab to learn more and to order. So, all right. Now we just talked about Musk. I was going to mention the fact that, they want this government efficiency department in order to save money so they can enact their big tax cut for the wealthy, right? Isn't that what that's all about?
Let's rewind. Remember when they tried to do this the first time?
Yeah.
And you had all these people, including Elon Musk, because guess what one of Musk's other big companies is? SpaceX.
Mm-hmm.
And guess which one of the big check writers to SpaceX is? The
Mm-hmm.
federal government,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
NASA. Because
Mhm.
NASA is a glorified check writing entity right now
Mhm.
that just, blows up rockets randomly. He's shooting rockets from Texas that blow up in the middle of the Caribbean. And, commercial jetliners have to suddenly turn around so that they don't get hit by his space debris in the middle of the Caribbean. Yes, true story over
Funny,
the
it,
past couple of weeks. Yeah, that's for government efficiency for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, these are the stories that they don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
It's just extraordinary to me. Now you're starting to see stories about the only way that they're going to be able to get this pro-oligarchic tax breakthrough is if they cut back on Medicaid. Are you kidding me? In North Carolina, it took a Democratic governor close to 8 years to get the Republican legislature to go along with expanding Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
And since Medicaid got expanded about a year and a half ago, 600,000 North Carolinians have signed up for it. So that's 600,000 people who did not have health care before expanded Medicaid came along. And now they're talking about cutting it back
Yeah.
so that they can give the wealthy a bigger tax break.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
working too good.
yeah, where does the hypocrisy stop? Where does it all end?
So you might recall here in Georgia, we had our State of the State address, was it last week? And Kemp, which probably he's probably going to run for Senate. That's my prediction for that. But that rascal from North Georgia showed up drunk and thought that he was going to, go into the chamber, and the big old white dudes, tried to wrestle him down and all that craziness. But that was, Kemp, one of his, I'll say, extended slash lies or what have you, was that, Georgians are signing up for health insurance. No, they aren't.
Yeah.
He's trying to say that you got to volunteer at work and all these crazy things. But to complete the other part of that too, that they tried to do it the first time. They tried to cut spending and all this kind of stuff. But what happens is you've got these congressmen that are getting all of these huge campaign donations
Mm-hmm.
from these rich people that are grifting off of the federal government with these federal contracts, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. If you cut that, that means that I, can't make a living. I'm going to have to cut all these people. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just a vicious cycle. And they're
Mhm.
like, no, I can't do that because that cuts off my campaign funding and cuts me out of a job too. It's going to be the same damn thing all over again.
All right. So what do you guys think the Democrats need to do now? Uh,
Call
I
them
mean,
out. You
they
got
don't
Miss,
have they
Miss
don't have they don't have any power right now because they don't control the House or the Senate.
Do the same thing the Republicans do in the minority. Just sit there and scream. Whoever the hell will listen. Miss Jasmine out in Texas does a great job of it. You got Miss Waters out in California. Whoever will listen to them, just scream at the top of their lungs and point fingers at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every white Republican, the worst thing they hate is a black woman screaming at them and telling them they're lying.
And you've got Jeffries in the House and Schumer in the Senate,
Yeah.
and I mean, if they do half of what the Republicans did when they were in the minority, then that's you're right, Robert. That's going to have an impact. That's going to have an effect. Messaging is the secret here, and it has to be nasty. It
Yeah.
has to be grim. It has to be combative. It should be factual. It should be true. You can even shade the truth a little bit if you have to, but we need to fight dirt with dirt here. Enough of the. You're right. The gloves are off. We've got to get out there and belt them. And the other thing we have to be is unified. We have to. We have these groups like Indivisible starting up, and they've been around for a couple of years or 4 years now or longer. I don't think they've accomplished much. I think we have to unite behind the party. Now, the party needs to do some stuff to appeal to some of the groups that are out there. They need to do a better job of appealing to the young folks. They need to do a better job of appealing to cultural groups like African Americans and Hispanics. They need to speak directly to them. But they need to get these groups behind them. There needs to be a unified party speaking with one voice, coordinated, organized, and going after some of the stuff that Trump's trying to do. And if that happens across the country, I mean, the Democrats are organized across the country. There's a Democratic Party in every county in the country.
Yep.
If the word gets out to them that this is what you're supposed to say, and this is the messaging we want you to have, and this is what we want you to do to prepare for the midterms or the municipals next year. In our state, we got municipals next year, this year, I mean. So I think if you do things like that, it'll have an effect. It'll have an impact. It'll take some time, but we can get there.
It was very interesting. There's this entity or consortium called Salem Media out there. And of all things, I don't know why they called it Salem Media, because when I think of that, I think of burning witches at the stake in Salem, Massachusetts. But it was a very, very conservative leaning radio, online blogging, podcast, just very crazy conservative. It was very interesting to go and just happen to see a news story that after the election, they're selling off assets. We're done. We've done our job. We have plugged all of this conservative, crazy conservative nonsense over the past 2 or 3 years. We're done. We're selling it off.
Good.
Well, good. But it was just very interesting of the timing that,
Yeah.
we're out, guys. We've done
Yeah.
what we're supposed to do.
Well, one thing we haven't talked about at all are these wonderful people that Trump has picked to be in his cabinet. What do you think about that? Like Pete Hegseth, as example. Uh, every day, another bad story comes out about that dude showing up drunk and all this stuff.
I worked at the VA for about 3 months, way back in my youth, and
That was way back, wasn't it?
I knew guys like Hegseth, and they went out and they drank their lunch, and they went out after work and drank some cocktails before they went home, and they didn't do a damn thing while they were at work. And I mean, unfortunately, there are a lot of folks like that in public service, just like he was, and it's a shame that he's getting rewarded for it. But maybe they're starting to catch up with him now. I don't know this.
But the
Well,
Republicans don't seem to care
sorry.
about that.
Yeah.
They don't seem to care. They accept it from Trump. They accept it from Trump, so they might as well accept it from anyone else, right?
Well, Bob, very interesting. You sent me a news story right before our episode today because Mr. Barry Loudermilk cares about it behind closed doors. Because
When they talk about that?
so I'll quote him. Let me
Now,
find it
first of
here.
all, you got to tell people who Barry Loudermilk is because most people don't know.
Well, he wants it that way. He can't stand when he makes it in the news that people talk bad about him, like his dear leader. So he is next door to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I call Marjorie his kid sister because she has, Northwest Georgia and then right next door in District 11. Barry he was originally a state legislator, and he just happened to draw me into his district he didn't know who the hell I was. I just happened to be gerrymandered into his district for quite a bit. And I did have the pleasure of meeting him once and asked him some tough questions.
You
But
call him on the phone all the time. I know that.
Oh yeah. So, his poor staffers, and we were you mentioned the Indivisible group. So after Trump got elected, we lived with him and actually brought him a cake and welcomed him to the minority when they lost the House, a number of years ago and things like this. But he's back in the news. So for January 5th, the day before January 6th, he was in the news for giving some folks a tour of the Capitol. But apparently that doesn't mean much because they let all those folks out of the slammer this week. But now he's back in the news again. And let me make sure I quote this because it said that he's quoted as saying, I know President Trump is 100% behind this. But then it goes further because now there are apparently text messages that deal with sexual innuendo and encounters with lady staffers when it gets to the likes of Cassidy Hutchinson. Isn't that salacious and juicy? And I want to quote this because it jumped out at me. Loudermilk says, we're going to continue the investigation and continue to expose the truth. Well, I wonder what they're going to expose.
Well, first of all, we need to remind people who Cassidy Hutchinson is.
So there were, Barry Loudermilk, and this goes back to Liz Cheney. Poor Cassidy Hutchinson. She worked at the Trump White House, and well, I say poor Cassidy Hutchinson, but she actually turned good at the end. I think she
Yes,
sat
she
down
did.
with Mama Liz Cheney, and she's like, "Honey, you can't keep doing this." And so, but Barry didn't like that because she knew where the bodies were buried, obviously. And now there's more because maybe there was some, as we say, exposure going on. But, Barry wants to expose the truth here.
Well, that
So,
story you're referring to, doesn't it talk about members of Congress trying to find a way to hook up with this Cassidy Hutchinson?
yeah, she's an
Huh?
attractive lady. So, yeah.
And Barry Loudermilk is going to expose all of that, right? Is
I
that
look
right?
forward to you exposing this, Congressman Loudermilk.
Huh? Well, I won't say this because I could probably get sued, but just think that maybe Barry's one of those guys that had the
So
hots for Cassidy.
everything that I know about Barry, he's sitting back, he's like, shit.
I don't
Because this
know.
is one more thing he's got to cover up now.
I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's only going to get crazier too.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
one
mean,
thing that's good. One
do you
thing that's
guys
good about it is that, the three of us, we're going to have a lot
Mhm.
of fun going over the
Keep it
next year or
coming? I mean,
two.
we could go
Huh?
all weekend. So, do you guys remember way back in like the 80s? I was a kid, and this commercial terrified the crap out of me. It was from the Mormon Church, and it was one of those Saturday morning LDS commercials, and they had the kid, he had told a lie, and he goes in the house, and little kids with flashlights, and they're like, "You tell one lie, it leads to another. Tell
Yeah.
two lies." Do you remember this commercial?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. That's like all of this. I'm like, how many more you gotta? I think they just like max out, and it just doesn't matter anymore. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the States. Both of you guys have a bunch of stuff happening, right? Especially you in North Carolina, Arthur.
Yeah, I guess the big story here is the race for a seat on the state Supreme Court. The Democratic candidate won by 753 votes on election day, and then the Republican candidate he challenged it as was his right, and so they did a recount, and lo and behold, Allison Riggs, the Democratic candidate, won again. So he challenged it for another recount, and they counted again, and same result. So now he's taken it to court, but the way he's taken it to court is he's challenged 60,000 votes from people who voted in this one contest, not the whole ballot, just this one contest. And he's saying that their ballots ought to be repealed because they fail to follow directions in filing applications to vote. And what they failed to do, apparently, was complete their social security number and also their driver's license number. Turns out that was not their fault. It wasn't that the voters didn't do that. It was that the State Board of Elections failed to record it. So now they're suing, and it's attracted a lot of attention around the country. And there are separate suits in federal courts and in state courts. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen. But what it really is, it's a test of voting rights, looking beyond the immediate political contest. It's a test of voting rights, not just in North Carolina, but it could come to be born in a lot of other states as well. So that's the main issue now. And I guess the next question is, as they adjudicate this thing, they're considering 5,000 of the 60,000 ballots were filed by the military, and the Republican candidate is maintaining that those ballots those voting applications weren't correctly filed either. And then it turns out that he himself was a JAG officer, and he was posted overseas for one of the elections in the last 8 years. And so he submitted his ballot. And so it's very possible that one of the ballots that they're talking about might be his. That just came to pass in the last few days. A report in one of the statewide publications around here. So that's an interesting development, and it's taken up a lot of bandwidth in the state right now.
Yeah. When you said, what'd you say, JAG officer?
Yeah.
What went through my head real quick when you said that was, well, in Pittsburgh, they say jag off.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah. My wife is from Pittsburgh, and so every once in a while she says I'm a jag off.
Did she expose you?
Did she expose me? No. No, she's much more of a lady than that. All right.
I'm
So,
glad.
what about you there, Robert? What's cooking in Georgia?
Yeah, so at the same time, here in Georgia, as we briefly mentioned earlier, the Georgia legislature is busy under the Gold Dome. And I can't remember if it's similar in the Carolinas, but our legislative session only is like January to March or April. So it's a short session, but it's underway. You know, right out the gate with the crazy drunk dude, trying to get in there and whatever and getting arrested. But Kemp, he's, dancing on both sides or mostly on the Republican side of the aisle, and he's, dancing more tax cuts, and all what he wants to do there. But this past week I had dabbled in it a little bit, and it's probably too much to unpack, but Georgia has some very interesting mechanisms in place where you can direct we pay up to, like, they capped it now at like 5 3/4 as the maximum state income tax we have here. But part of that, you can actually direct that money to go to specific things like foster care. And another portion of it you can direct to go to certain schools. And so I was digging into that this week, and I do want to do a podcast or get more information because a lot of people don't know about this. But guess who does know about this, which is something that I found this week? There was around $120 million on January 2nd for Georgia private schools that was immediately exhausted. And basically you have a bunch of folks for Georgia private schools rushing in there, clicking on the button to rush to get this money to come to their private schools here in Georgia. And it was immediately exhausted at $120 million right on January 2nd, which I thought was very interesting. But the other good side of this, which was actually news, is this was the email that correspondence I was having this week, is the legislators here in Georgia, in their wisdom, and I give them credit for this, they created a fund that was equal, if not more, for Georgia public schools that has not been exhausted. So you can actually tell the Georgia, and there's a whole entity. I have the documentation and everything. You can tell the state of Georgia, I want, for example, $1,500 to go to Acme County schools. Please send it to them, which I think is really cool. And I
Yeah.
applaud our legislator. If you're going to do this tax voucher thing for private schools, which I think is a bunch of bullcrap, they
Mhm.
actually wrote it in and said, we're going to do the same exact thing for public schools. So kudos that I'm
Yeah,
finding out this is a thing here in Georgia.
exactly.
And in the past episode I did back in, it was 2023, I reached out to him, Dr. Stephen Owens. He is a director of education at the Georgia Public Policy Institute. He is a bulldog. He has his doctorate from UGA and focus on education policy. We have talked about this before. Maybe he'll rejoin me again to kind of catch up and see where it is. But he knows all the ins and outs of this and has lobbied on this, and I hope I can give him credit for actually making that happen. So,
That's cool. That's cool.
yeah,
Okay, well, here in South Carolina, it's run by Republicans, right? The whole place is run by Republicans. And Republicans are supposed to be really, smart with money, right? Isn't that
allegedly.
allegedly? Yeah. Well, what would you say if you lived in a state where that was run by Republicans and somehow they misplaced $1.8 billion dollars? Because apparently that's what's happened in South Carolina.
That's amazing. That's just and how did that happen?
I have no idea. I just saw this story. Actually, I saw it this morning in the local news, and it says that the Federal Securities and Exchange Commission is investigating the accuracy of the state's financial books. And now the state budget writers want to hire an independent compliance officer to oversee the state's financial system. And it's all because of this 1.8 billion, which somehow or other they don't even know if it exists, if it really existed or not. Now, I know that that in my case, if I had 1.8 billion, I'd sure as hell know where it was, right?
So,
if I were you, I'd ask for your money back if they've got it.
Yeah.
guess who was listening, Bob? Trump was. So again, I'm watching Fox News. He signed an executive order to make the U.S. the crypto center of the world.
Yeah, I don't
So
understand what that's all about. Do you?
exactly. So it just goes right into what you were saying. We don't even know if the money existed. So
So anyway, this local politician, the Senator Larry Grooms, who is a Republican, he says, in other words, we need to hire a babysitter to take a look at what happens within the state treasurer's office, within the state controller general's office, and with our internal auditor function. Now,
Well, I guess the answer to that is might as well. You aren't.
that's right.
Yeah.
Holy
I mean, I
mackerel.
remember. You remember, Bob. You probably remember this, but back when Marion Barry was the mayor of Washington, fiscal policy got so bad there that they actually had to call in a outside guy to come in and act as a sort of a extra auditor for the city to get the finances straight. So it certainly isn't unprecedented if they did something like that.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing to me. I don't know. Other than that, there's not a whole hell of a lot going on here politically, except for all the maggots, MAGATSs, all being happy because Trump got elected, and they're all wearing their damn Trump hats around in restaurants and all this stuff. Just makes me want to puke when I see that. And but anyway, that's my nugget from South Carolina is the missing 1.8 billion.
Yeah.
So anyway, listen, guys, thanks for hanging in with us. We'll be back every month with Robert and Arthur and our guests. Meanwhile, it'd be great if you'd subscribe to the Lean to the Left podcast, which streams weekly, and support our efforts to keep you informed. Just visit podcast.leantotheleft.net to get started.
and then one quick thing, Bob, just to remind you, I did
Yeah.
drop your copy of the book off at the local DeKalb library.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Oh, Nice.
Well, thank you
I
very
should,
much.
I should do that.
I hope they will add it to the catalog. I'm going to try to remember to check it. The librarian was super nice. She even gave me a receipt. I just
Okay.
hope that they add it, to the catalog and don't just like sell it. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's in
Right.
circulation. So,
It's in circulation. Well, I thank you very much. I mean, every single one that's in circulation, that's a good thing.
and not being burned.
Not being burned.
Or ban.
Right.
That's right. That's right. All right, guys. Anybody got anything else they want to add?
Go dark, Brandon, go.
Now's the time.
Hey guys, I'm Bob Gaddy, founder and host of Lean to the Left. I'm excited to share our new book, Hijack Nation, Donald Trump's Attack on America's Greatness, co-authored with political analyst and professor C.J. Waldron. In Hijack Nation, we delve into the unfolding story of America's political landscape through a series of essays from leantotheleft.net. We explore how Donald Trump's presidency has transformed American politics, challenging our values and institutions. Hijack Nation isn't just a book, it's a call to action. It invites you to reflect on what it means to be American in a divided political landscape. Together we can reclaim our nation's greatness. So get your copy of Hijack Nation today. Visit leantotheleft.net and click on the Books tab to learn more and to order.